It all started with a typo. Not a life-threatening one, not the kind that ruins resumes or starts accidental wars on Twitter. Just a harmless, lazy, Friday night kind of typo. I was half asleep on my laptop, clicking through domain names for a dumb project I was never going to finish. Something about reviewing microwavable burritos from different gas stations across America. Don't ask. I was single, bored, full of sodium. I typed in fastbites.com. Taken. Then I tried fastbite.com because nerd pun. Also taken. Then my cat jumped on my keyboard and somehow I hit enter on fastbites.io. Available. $2. I bought it out of spite. That was it. Just a silly little impulse buy, like ordering socks at 2 a.m. or subscribing to a streaming service because it offered one free week. I didn't even think about it after. The burrito blog never happened. The domain just sat there, untouched, collecting dust in the digital ether. And then, almost a year later, I got an email. Subject: Inquiry about fastbites.io. Sender: Margot@Neutrilica.com. At first, I thought it was spam, but the signature looked legit. A startup out of San Francisco, fancy logo, TechCrunch press link, a woman named Margot asking if I still owned the domain and if I'd be willing to sell it. She offered $500. I laughed. Not because it was a bad offer. It was fine. I'd paid $2. I could use $500. That's like an entire week of groceries if I pretended inflation didn't exist. But something made me pause. I Googled Neutrilica. Turns out they were cooking up a rebrand. They'd just raised $6.8 million in seed funding. Their app, FastBites, was meant to revolutionize how people tracked nutrition in fast food. Hyper-personalized, AI-driven, geolocation-based meal planning. All that buzzword soup. And they didn't own the domain. I suddenly felt powerful. For the first time in my painfully average life, I had leverage. I didn't know anything about domain flipping or negotiation tactics. I was a junior copywriter at a mid-tier marketing firm who once cried because someone passive-aggressively replied to my Slack message with a thumbs-up emoji. But I knew this. They needed me. Or more specifically, my stupid cat-assisted domain. So I did something bold. I replied, "Hi, Margot. Thanks for the interest. I wasn't planning to sell, but if Neutrilica is serious about fastbites.io, I'd be willing to consider an offer in the low 5 figures." And then I closed my laptop and screamed into a pillow. I didn't hear back for 2 days. Longest 2 days of my life. By the end of day 1, I'd convinced myself I'd blown it. By the end of day 2, I'd already drafted an apology email in my head. "Dear Margot, haha, just kidding. $500 is great, actually. Love you. Bye." But on the 3rd day, her response landed. "Hi, appreciate your reply. Let me check internally and get back to you." Which in corporate speak means, you're not crazy, but don't push it. I couldn't sleep that night. My brain was doing gymnastics. What if they ghosted me? What if they just picked another name? What if I was blowing my one shot at actual adult-level money over a domain I hadn't even remembered owning? Then, the next morning, "Hi again. We can do $12,500 if we can close this week." I just sat there, staring at the screen. $12,500 for a domain I bought while eating half a chimichanga and watching reruns of Kitchen Nightmares. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember pacing. But suddenly I was doing both, whispering to no one, "Is this real? This can't be real. This feels illegal. Should I tell someone? Am I a tech bro now?" Once I calmed down, I did what any millennial would do in a crisis. I Googled how to sell a domain name safely without getting scammed. 10 minutes later, I discovered something called escrow.com, which sounded legit, and I pitched it to Margot. She agreed instantly. By Friday, the money was in my account. Just like that. 12 grand. For a domain I typed once and forgot it existed. I took screenshots of my bank balance, sent them to my mom. She thought I'd been hacked. The story could have ended there. It almost did. But then later that week, I went on a rabbit hole binge, watching YouTube videos and reading blog posts about domain flipping. Turns out there's an entire underworld of people who buy and sell names the same way others trade sneakers or baseball cards. Some of them even made a living doing it, and some made a lot more. I didn't think I was one of those people. I was still the same copywriter, still renting a shoebox apartment, still getting ghosted on dating apps. But I figured, what if I tried again? I bought 10 domains that week. Just random ones that sounded cool. I didn't know what I was doing. I just followed my gut. Forker.io, Mindmint.ai, Zenvana.com, cribpilot.com, snackgenics.net. Some were terrible, others not bad. I set up a $10 a month portfolio page, made a Twitter account, started poking around startup forums, pretending I was more confident than I felt. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. Then, one night in April, I got an email. Subject: Inquiry about cribpilot.com. From bizdev@nestera.co.uk. Хочешь продолжение? В следующей части начнется настоящая цепочка случайных сделок, которые и приведут героя к миллиону. The email was short and polite. Hi, we noticed you own cribpilot.com. Are you open to selling it? We're developing a product under a similar name and would love to connect. This time, I didn't panic. I didn't scream into a pillow. I felt oddly calm. Cribpilot.com was just a name I thought sounded like a baby monitoring app, something with AI that tracks naps and diaper changes or whatever new parents worry about. Apparently, someone else thought the same. I replied with the confidence of a man who once sold a domain for $12,500 and watched The Social Network twice. Hi, thanks for reaching out. Yes, I'd consider selling. What sort of budget are you working with? That's a trick I picked up from a domain forum. Never name your price first. Let them squirm. They wrote back the next day. We can offer £3,000. Let us know. Quick math. That was roughly $3,800. Not life-changing, but not bad for a domain I'd bought 3 months ago for $7.99. I countered at $5,000. They met me halfway. Deal done. Another domain gone. Another few grand in the bank. It didn't feel accidental anymore. Over the next few months, this weird side hustle became something I thought about constantly. Every word I heard, in ads, podcasts, random conversations, became a potential domain. I started waking up at 2 a.m. to check if some clever combo was still available. My browser had more GoDaddy tabs than news sites. My bookmarks were filled with startup name generators, expired domain scrapers, and who is lookup tools. I wasn't flipping houses or investing in stocks. I wasn't even building anything real. I was just buying names. But the margins? Ridiculous. Most domains I got for under $15. Some sold for hundreds. A few for thousands. And one day, I hit my first 5-figure sale again. Mindmint.ai, sold to a mental health app in Canada for $18,000. I nearly passed out. My coworkers started noticing something was up. Why are you smiling at your screen like that? Why are you suddenly bringing lunch from home instead of eating instant noodles every day? Did you get a raise without telling us? I didn't want to brag. I didn't even know how to explain it. Yeah, I buy words on the internet and strangers give me money. Sounds insane, but it kept working. By the end of that year, I'd sold 11 domains for a total of $96,350. And then came the offer that changed everything. It was early spring. I was walking home from work, headphones in, half listening to a podcast. My phone buzzed. I glanced down. Subject: Offer for Forker.io. From David at byteformlabs.com. No hi, no fluff, just this. We've been tracking Forker.io for months. Our legal team recommends we acquire it to avoid future brand conflict. Are you open to a six-figure conversation? Six-figure conversation. I stopped walking. A car honked. I didn't even flinch. That night, I Googled David. He wasn't just some intern. He was the COO of Byteform, a food tech platform that just closed a $28 million Series A. They wanted my domain. Badly. I called a lawyer, I called my bank, I called my mom. No one had any idea what was going on. And 2 weeks later, after a blur of paperwork, Zoom calls, and one minor panic attack when the wire transfer got delayed, I had $310,000 in my account. Just like that. When I first saw the wire transfer confirmation, I didn't believe it. $310,000? I refreshed the page 3 times, certain it was a mistake. Maybe it was a placeholder. Maybe a decimal was in the wrong spot. But no, it was real. It was there. I was, by most definitions, richer than I'd ever imagined I'd be. I stared at the number like it was a wild animal that had wandered into my living room. Part awe, part fear, part, what the hell do I do now? That night, I didn't celebrate. Not really. I thought I'd pop champagne, dance around, maybe scream from the balcony. Instead, I just sat on the floor with my laptop, eating cold cereal, trying to decide if I should tell anyone. It felt like I'd gotten away with something. Like I'd hacked life. I wasn't a genius. I wasn't a coder. I didn't inherit anything. I didn't invent anything. I didn't even build anything. I just bought a dumb domain one night because I thought it sounded cool. And now I had over 300 grand. The next morning, I quit my job. I didn't make a scene. I didn't drop the classic, take this job and shove it. I just emailed my manager and said I was moving on to focus on personal projects. She was surprised, sure, but not suspicious. After all, she'd seen the change in me over the last year, how I walked differently, how I stopped fighting over lunch shifts or panicking over missed deadlines, like I had some secret reserve of calm. I did. It was called a 6-figure PayPal balance. For the next few weeks, I lived in a weird space between freedom and fear. Freedom because, for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't tethered to a desk or a deadline. Fear because, now what? What if it all dried up? What if that one deal was a fluke? What if I burned it through and ended up broke, jobless, and full of regret? That's when I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a financial advisor. Her name was Julia. She was blunt, efficient, and didn't blink when I told her how I made the money. "You're not crazy," she said. "You're early." She helped me do smart things. Pay off my student loans, set aside taxes, invest in index funds, and open a SEP IRA. She even convinced me to buy an affordable duplex, live in one unit, rent out the other. Build long-term income, she said. Don't just chase the next lightning strike. I nodded, smiled, listened. Then, secretly, I bought 10 more domains. The thing is, I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. This wasn't just money anymore. This was mine, my weird little empire, my proof that luck could be engineered if you squinted hard enough. And then it happened. A startup founder slid into my inbox. He wanted snackgenics.net, one of the stupidest names I'd ever bought. He offered $2,000, I asked for $4,500, we settled at $3,800. 2 days later, someone else asked about Zenvana.com. Sold that for $9,000. Within 8 months, I'd made another $170,000. And when I checked my total earnings domain by domain, I sat back in my chair and just stared. $1,016,840. I had accidentally and somehow stubbornly become a millionaire.